It's 1981. Reagan is sworn into office and ushers in a whole new era for America.
This decade, its golden eruption, was probably epitomized by Dynasty.
Dynasty could not have been more perfectly timed.
Bigger, bolder, brasher, and unapologetically 80s.
I require one bedroom for my wardrobe and one for myself.
Dynasty also starred powerful women.
They looked great and they dressed great.
The country becomes Dynasty obsessed.
Joan Collins is one of the most photographed and written about people in the world.
As it morphs into a cultural phenomenon.
100 million people a week globally watch the show.
The world was Dynasty mad.
The early 80s were an interesting time. Primetime soaps were a relatively new phenomenon.
Dallas is an enormous breakthrough in that it brings the idea of the continuing storyline to primetime television in a hit show.
All the other networks, the two other networks, I should say, NBC and ABC, wanted their own version of Dallas. Where do we get one of those?
ABC went to Aaron Spelling and said, "Give me a Dallas." Aaron Spelling was a mega hit producer who worked on shows like Charlie's Angels, Fantasy Island. He really figured out the formula for nighttime soap operas.
ABC knew how important Aaron Spelling was, and certainly he was one of the most important producers of that era.
Esther Shapiro and her husband brought a script to Aaron, and he said, "I think we can really work with this." Dallas was already on the air. They were on a ranch, they wore ranch clothes, but Aaron wanted this totally elegant.
We began thinking of a series that had everything that you're not supposed to put on television. Rich people, the Midwest, older women particularly, strong, powerful, lots of business, entrepreneur, greed, opulence.
At one time, the title of the show was Oil. We'd talked about that a lot. Lo and behold, the Shapiros came up with a title called Dynasty that I just loved. I think that said everything. They did a tremendous job. We worked together, but I give full credit for Dynasty to them.
When Dynasty premiered, I really remarked on quite how different it was from Dallas.
It really was this upstairs, downstairs drama, focusing on the ultra-wealthy Carringtons, who were led by Blake Carrington, an oil tycoon.
The storytelling, which I found was so ratcheted up on Dynasty. It's more verbal, it's more visual, it just was more catchy.
My agent sent me the script for the pilot. I said, well, I don't really want to do television. I envisioned myself as having a film career at that time. And he said, oh, it's just a pilot, just do it. It won't be any big deal.
And sell me into the harem of a sheik for 3 barrels of crude and a box of cigars.
The audition was like a film audition. They had it at a soundstage. They had a real film camera. They had a director. It was a big deal. Got a call late that day and said, you got the part. Playing Stephen Carrington. I also said, I'm rich, because I was making like, I don't know, $300 a week doing theater. It's like, wow, okay. Whew, I can eat better. They said, we're picking it up for 13 shows. And we're shooting a 3-hour pilot. It's like a 3-hour pilot. We barely shot 1-hour pilots. I show up, we shoot the whole thing with George Peppard as my father.
George Peppard played my father initially. He wasn't getting along with the producers, or maybe perhaps seemed sort of demanding. It was nuts. It was difficult. It was a very odd situation.
George Peppard was a pain in the ass.
George was not the team player.
I introduced myself. He looked at me and went, that's what he said.
And the next thing I know, he was being replaced with John Forsythe.
You got to come back and shoot all those scenes again.
John Forsythe was certainly well known to the Spelling Company and was well known to viewers as the voice of Charlie on Charlie's Angels.
Good morning, Angels.
Good morning, Charlie.
And so they had a relationship with John Forsythe, who is the perfect choice.
John Forsythe, as Blake Carrington, brought sort of an icy steel to his character and, was very much in command.
You do something about it. And don't bother me again with this business until it's finished.
Whereas Linda Evans as Crystal, a little more warm, a little more embracing.
I married Blake because I love him.
because I want to make him happy.
And together, they just were this glamorous, iconic couple that you really enjoyed watching and seeing the yin and yang between the two.
I love you even more tomorrow than I did yesterday.
I love you too, darling.
Linda Evans is just such a lovely person. She had her own personality. She had the angelic white blonde hair. She practically glowed with goodness.
We are introduced to this world really through Crystal's eyes. She was like a young employee who fell in love with Blake. The show begins with the marriage of Blake and Crystal, and their romance really is the ultimate through line of the whole show.
It came on in mid-season, as they called it then, in January of 1981. It was the week of the presidential inauguration with Reagan.
I, Ronald Reagan, do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States.
And here comes this show that is big and bold and over the top and is going to end up embodying what we associate with Reaganism and with the 80s.
Dynasty is very much a reflection of the Reagan era and conspicuous consumption and, Wall Street and Gordon Gekko.
Read is right.
This decade, its golden eruption was probably epitomized by Dynasty.
I love Dynasty, and I'm not afraid to admit that. I think it captured the essence of what the 1980s were about in America.
Dynasty could not have been more perfectly timed.
It was a way to just escape into this insane world of conspicuous consumption and money.
Dynasty was not a white-hot hit when it premiered. It did okay. And ABC obviously was being patient with it. Number 26 in the ratings is not the worst place to be. It's just not the top 20 where you're really guaranteed safe.
I actually was on set a lot in the beginning. The sets on Dynasty were incredible. Everything had to be beautiful, opulent, what old Hollywood was.
The caviar on set was generally real.
It's excellent caviar.
The flowers were all real. They'd throw a spread on camera, which was cracked crab and stuff, and it would all be real, and you could eat it.
And tiny new potatoes with sour cream and caviar. I was a very new director. I had barely directed anything. I don't think I'd ever had caviar before I did the show. It was the first time I'd ever tasted caviar. Real crystal, real chandeliers. I have one of them in my house, by the way. Real everything.
We had, Brinks people on set with some of the diamonds and the jewels and the furs, and, that was back when furs were real furs.
The first episode they gave me was insane because the episode was surrounded a huge birthday party for one of the kids. And it was at a Pasadena estate, and there were literally maybe 200 people there, extras, jugglers, clown people, and I freaked out when I read the script. I thought, oh my God, how am I gonna get this? But John Forsythe came up to me and he just said, this is amazing. We love you. This is great. And I thought, okay, I got through day one.
Well, if it gets any bigger, you're gonna have to rent the convention center downtown.
Well, I've thought of that. Or my football field.
It was campy, it was fun, it was costumes.
Can I drop you off somewhere?
No, I have a date.
I think if you look at daytime soaps or nighttime soaps, they all have a little camp in them.
I married you because I made a deal with the devil.
I asked you to wear the emerald necklace tonight.
It was a big gay thing. The gay community loved it.
I'm trying to find myself, to sort out my life.
The phrase used to be, I love you.
I love Dynasty because of the dichotomy. Obviously, it's campy, it's flashy, it's fabulous, but it also is a very serious drama.
Don't try to deny it, Blake Carrington. You had him beat up, and I know it.
If I did or I didn't, that's no concern of yours.
Some of the issues that the show tackled were reproductive rights.
Your abortion is set for Tuesday. A message I took for you. Pick up the phone and cancel it.
Gay rights.
I'm gay, and I want you to face it.
We pitched some very touching subject matter. I didn't ever see a gay character on television till that.
The character of Stephen was a seminal moment in television for gay men.
What I am is somebody who's in love with a person.
My interest was, that's something that I haven't seen. How am I going to do that? I thought it was special.
And if you ever really loved me the way I loved you, you'll understand.
I think that without Stephen, without Dynasty, their gay representation on television would have definitely been slower.
Stephen is gay.
I got a lot of fan mail from gay men who said, you know, when I saw your show, finally, there was a voice. Finally, there was someone that I could relate to.
Take care, buddy.
You too, buddy.
At the end of the first season, Blake Carrington attacks Stephen Carrington's male lover, Ted Denard.
Get your hands off my son.
Dad, we were...
I said get your hands off him.
No!
And kills him.
You've killed him.
The storyline of my father killing my lover, which was accidental, or was it? And that's sort of the play on it. I think it was a way to get into a court scene.
People of the state of Colorado versus Blake Carrington.
Stephen Carrington, my character had to make a choice to defend his father or defend myself and my right to be gay.
Blake's kind of the villain in that story. When it made me confused as a viewer. Wait, am I supposed to like this guy? Because he's saying bad things to Stephen, and yet he's so innately likable even when he's doing it.
They wanted me to be a JR in Dallas figure, and I was opposed to that.
The show needed a villain.
Uh-oh. Blake's not bad enough. Who do we get?
Your Honor, our witness has arrived.
This was going to be the villain for the 80s. Let's find somebody really big, really good.
The Hat arrived first.
What's she doing here? What's going on?
In the courtroom scene, when Alexis walks in for the very first time, it's actually an extra.
My God, that's my mother.
There was going to be either Elizabeth Taylor, Sophia Loren, that Aaron had wanted to play Alexis.
Sophia Loren's husband came to meet with me in the office. Then he heard that we shot like 8 pages a day. He said, well, we don't do that in a week. So
they turned it down, and it became Joan Collins.
I'll tell you about Joan Collins. The network did not want her. He had to fight really hard for her. She had done a few B movies. Aaron really fought for Joan.
You know, and Joan comes in and is this just absolute boss. And I don't know that we'd ever seen the boss bitch done quite like that on network television.
Would you state your full name, please?
Alexis Morel Carrington.
You were the first wife of the defendant, Blake Carrington. You're the mother of his children, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
When I saw her do the first scene, it was just perfect.
There were threats made. Something about how my children might not recognize me if I tried to see them.
Joan just took that character and just ran with it.
When I need a trump card, I'm going to play it.
Joan just liked hurling barbs at people.
Still the impotent voyeur.
Verbal assaults.
You double-crossing scum.
Which she was absolutely brilliant at.
You bitch!
Shh. You're beginning to sound more and more like a fishwife.
the whole idea of bringing Joan Collins in with that accent,
There are 2 Mrs. Colbys now, you know.
the way she wore clothes and that feeling she had, it was just perfect casting.
You're even more beautiful and more ugly than that grand English lady I vaguely remember.
Joan Collins obviously added a huge element to Dynasty once she arrived and became one of the best villains in television history.
I'm glad to see that your father had your teeth fixed, if not your tongue.
And she played my real mother.
Hello, Stephen.
Hello.
Who is that person? Who is that character? Who is that actress?
People always want, what's Joan Collins? Is that really a bitch? No, she's not. She can be, but she's fundamentally not.
Soap operas have to cheat their storytelling so often because you want to cast an actor, a hot young actor. Well, who's that actor going to play? A long-lost child.
My son.
I remember doing my screen test, and she had just emerged from the stage door. Hello, Miss Collins, I'm Gordon Thompson. Thinking back on it, it's astonishing that one of the enormous stars of this now very successful series, was going to do a screen test with a complete unknown. One of my lines was that my real name was Adam Alexander Carrington. It was an enormous treat. So you'd think I would know that you got the job. It went very well.
It's a welcome home gift, darling.
When I started, I was really a gopher. I was terrified of Joan. Before I had even met her, was told to go in her dressing room with sketches, sitting in her dressing room. And she came off set, not in the best of moods, and I was there, and she turned around and she started screaming. And I'm trying to tell her, I'm here to show you sketches, but she kept screaming and screaming. All of a sudden, the door flew open, and it was Heather Locklear. And I said, I'm here to see Joan and show her sketches. And she said, honey, Joan's not here today. It's only Alexis.
You don't love Joan. You're kind of a little afraid of Joan, but you're fascinated by Joan.
Dynasty was not a huge hit until Alexis showed up.
I do as I please. I always have and I always will.
It was interesting to see it suddenly go, you know what, we've kind of found our lane here. And our lane is not kitchen sink drama, it's opera.
If you want a rematch, just whistle.
We have to talk about Alexis and Crystal's big cat fight that went right into the lily pond.
You miserable bitch.
Once Dynasty established that there would be physical catfights between women, that was something audiences were tuning in for. Will this week be one of the weeks where they, Alexis and Crystal dive into the lily pond?
They were wet constantly, like drenched. And I know it wasn't easy for them, but watching it was just so much fun.
Linda was very physical and loved fighting, and Joan was not.
With the catfights, I think they were like a drug. And next week's catfight has to be that much crazier that you have to up the dosage of that drug for the audience to make it stand out.
There are many catfights on Dynasty. I did one of them. They went down a muddy hill and then fought in mud.
You stupid bitch! Look what you've done to this outfit!
A lot of people that watched the show and knowing that there were Chanel suits, there was Nolan Miller suits, there were dresses, but we never, ever put a Nolan Miller suit in mud. So rest assured, yes, the suits were safe.
I'd rather concentrate on your outfit. It's rather becoming.
Nolan Miller was one of the superstars of Dynasty, whether people knew his name at the time or not. Nolan Miller had come to Hollywood in the 50s. The most auspicious thing that happened to him and happened to Aaron Spelling is that they met each other. And they formed this partnership.
His dream was to be a couturier. And so I said, well, if I ever get a show, we'll do some costumes together.
Nolan and Aaron's first big successful collaboration was The Love Boat. It was an excuse for Nolan to really swing for the fences and really design his dream gowns. And so by the time Dynasty came around in 1981, The Love Boat had been on for 3 seasons. They were revving at top gear right from the start of Dynasty.
When I first started with Nolan, it was crazy because nobody ever gave a budget. When I went fabric shopping or sourcing things, do I have a limit of how much I can spend? No.
The budget started out when I first was there at $15,000 a week. And then I was always over budget, and it was a problem, and Aaron talked to me, so he raised it to $25,000 a week.
They don't care what they spend. It's a dream come true. You come in and they've got the finest everything for you to choose what you want to wear.
Aaron, he was a master at detail. If an extra walked by and had the same color on as one of the principals, he absolutely, we have to reshoot this.
There's been no show that I did before, during, or after that has ever had a budget like that for wardrobe.
The clothes literally became one of the stars of the show.
The 80s happened to be an explosion of fashion that Dynasty helped happen with those Nolan Miller designs. The shoulder pads and the hair got bigger and bigger and bigger as they tried to outdo themselves and be more and more glam and more aspirational.
They were couture, real haute couture.
I salivated over those clothes. The clothes were sensational.
Whitby just was so damn glamorous.
One of the fascinations about Dynasty that causes millions of people to watch every week is the fashion.
In the whole running of the show, the clothing were the only thing that actually won an Emmy. No actor ever won an Emmy, but Nolan won an Emmy for wardrobe.
If you think about it, the cast of Dynasty were basically influencers.
They'll be able to dress like the characters of Dynasty, smell like the characters of Dynasty, and make their homes look like it.
Dynasty star Joan Collins has her own jewelry collection.
Nolan was asked numerously to create retail fashion lines.
After the show began, Miller started receiving thousands of letters asking where viewers could buy the same kind of clothes on the show.
He finally recreated a line for Bloomingdale's, which was epic.
He made 101 classic outfits from the hit series available to high fashion fans everywhere.
It was chaos at the store when they debuted the collection. The characters, they had all shown up, all the actors. It really was something.
I really think that Dynasty got it right in that it embraced the femaleness of it all. They wisely knew who their audience was and who was watching.
The role of women on Dynasty was an important issue, almost from the beginning. They looked great and they dressed great. You know, they weren't, in the kitchen or, or taking the kids to school or taking them to soccer games.
It wasn't really until Dynasty that we had seen women in very powerful roles as CEOs of companies.
If I do not get that approval, I shall fire you all on the spot.
But don't think that just because Blake Carrington isn't here that I won't be keeping an eye on you. Every one of you.
You are now working for me. I suppose they call it a bitch because it's a woman. If it was a man, they would call it a very dedicated career person who's strong and forceful. But because it's a woman, they call her a bitch.
What do you want, Miss Devereux? For now, not much, really.
When Diane Carroll joined Dynasty as Dominique Devereux,
From now on, every deal you make, every step you take, turn and look over your shoulder. Because sooner or later, I will be standing there.
she broke the glass ceiling to some degree in representation, especially of Black wealth and opulence.
You're suing me.
Exactly.
And bringing a whole new level of storytelling to Dynasty that we hadn't seen before on that show or really in television.
Women are interested in seeing women look beautiful and be powerful and be smart.
Joan was the first woman at age 50 that was put on the cover of Playboy magazine. Hugh Hefner approached her. She nervously said yes, did it. And so it really was a new chapter for women. And it was about a whole resurgence of beautiful women.
Joan Collins is one of the most photographed and written about people in the world.
It really morphed into a cultural phenomenon.
We loved the fact that we were all the magazine covers and everybody was talking about the show and that we felt we were invincible.
100 million people a week globally watched the show. The visibility was huge.
The world was Dynasty mad.
Dynasty and Dallas became era-defining hits and were alternating with, who could be #1 and who could be #2 in the primetime lineup.
ABC's soap opera Dynasty finished on top of the Nielsen ratings last week.
Nobody ever dreamt, I think, in their wildest dreams, it was going to be as successful.
Dynasty!
Dynasty.
Thank you very much. I want to thank Sophia Loren for turning down the part.
Thank you very much indeed.
Very, very grateful.
The parties they threw got fancier. The hair got bigger. The shoulder pads got bigger. The cars got fancier.
Hop over the mountain to Encino, to the Hot Club, where a big party is going on.
They had Dynasty parties on the night that Dynasty showed, and they'd all watch it together and scream at the same scenes.
What gave you the idea to throw the party?
There was this whole kind of thing going on in America of everybody having Dynasty parties on Wednesday night.
If so-and-so says a certain line, you got to chug a beer.
Everybody sort of got into this sort of Dynasty fever. And we would all go to gay bars in West Hollywood the night of the show. And it was great because we sort of saw it with the fans.
I think one of the downsides of Dynasty becoming a huge success is that there was a lot more pressure on the show to become more mainstream and shy away from some of the more controversial storylines. And as a result, they pulled back quite a bit from some of those storylines that were real landmarks of Dynasty early on.
Where would you like for me to put the money?
Come on, don't tell me this is your first time with a hooker.
No, it wasn't.
It's interesting, the early episodes of Dynasty They were a lot grittier.
I wanted you to be a man.
I am a man, just not your kind.
Dynasty became a bit of a different show. It was less about business. It was less about the gritty storylines.
Behind the scenes, there was always a lot of discussion about how gay Steven could be.
They had a hard time, for whatever reason, committing to Steven just being completely gay.
You said to me that it made you sick, me putting my hands on another man. Okay, I'm putting them on women.
I remember being on the set across the table in a scene with my gay lover, and I reached over and I was gonna just put my hand on his hand in the scene. And someone from ABC came over and said, "You can't do that." I said, "What do you mean?" And by the way, if you're gonna hug him, you have to either be saying goodbye or hello. That was surprising to me. It caught me off guard as an actor.
Hi.
Hi.
How do you have a out gay character who can only maybe like touch and hug his partners? So they started exploring his relationships with other characters, specifically female characters.
I'm Sammy Jo Dean, Crystal Carrington's niece.
They decided to make him bisexual, and they made him, he got married to Sammy Jo, Heather Locklear. You missed a really big opportunity here. Now it's like he's gay, he's not gay, you know, and it's redundant as an actor. If you're not willing to go in and go a little bit below the surface, even in a soap opera, what's the point of the character? So I was really disappointed, to be quite honest. When I showed my unhappiness with where the character was going, and I think they just said, you know, okay, well, fine. And I said, okay, fine. That was it.
He didn't appreciate that, didn't think it was right, and as a result, ultimately left the show.
Steven was first played by Al Corley, but when the actor complained about the show, he was killed off, then brought back by Jack Coleman.
Good evening, Ben. You are trying to visualize what you will look like?
I was on the phone with my mother, and all of a sudden, the operator came in and said, "We have an emergency phone call from Howard Goldberg, my agent." And he said, "You got it." He was on that unfortunate rig in the China Sea where there's the explosion, and Steven went from Al to me.
You ready for a look?
Thank you, Dr. Chen, for giving me a face I'll be able to live with.
As you do, you survive an oil rig fire and you come back with a new face.
The immaculate surgery and facial reconstruction without a scar, and perfectly coiffed hair, I might add. That was maybe one of the most Dynasty things of all Dynasty things.
You know, I thought it was pretty silly, but under the circumstances, the character was popular in certain areas, so they really couldn't kill him off.
What did end up happening with Steven is he did end up getting watered down, and I can't imagine that it was not the case that the timing of the HIV/AIDS epidemic had a lot to do with it.
A mystery disease known as the gay plague has become an epidemic unprecedented in the history of American medicine.
The first reports I ever saw, and I think that ever aired, about something that was then called GRID, gay-related immunodeficiency, were in 1981.
When AIDS was first discovered more than 2 years ago, it was sometimes called the gay plague. That's because virtually all of the victims were homosexual.
GRID became named HIV/AIDS.
It appeared a year ago in New York's gay community.
Suddenly, gay sex was dangerous. Gay romance led to something dangerous, and we had to pull back. We were all afraid.
70% of its victims are gay men.
The deadly disease has been mostly striking homosexual men.
Thousands of people in this country have AIDS.
This is not a political issue. This is a health issue. This is not a gay issue. This is a human issue.
The irony is that Dynasty would eventually be at the heart of that controversy of HIV/AIDS with its Rock Hudson storyline.
Rock Hudson was cast on the show, and it was in the middle of AIDS.
I have a rule. I never go after anything that can't be taken.
Does that rule hold only for companies? Or does it apply to wives as well?
Rock came on the set, and first of all, I was thrilled to be working with him. He was sick at the time, and I felt very bad. He was very thin.
We certainly knew early on in the show that something was not right with him. And he was very weak and very gaunt and pale.
In Dynasty, there were scenes where Rock Hudson's character kisses Crystal, Linda Evans' character.
I don't think Rock Hudson had come out as gay or that he had AIDS at the time.
Mr. Rock Hudson has acquired immune deficiency syndrome, which was diagnosed over a year ago.
We were told by a lot of medical people that AIDS can be transmitted that way by kissing. And I just so scared for Linda.
When it came out, that Rock Hudson, had AIDS and that he had kissed Linda Evans on Dynasty, I think everybody wondered why he would do that.
Joan Collins was pushed off a balcony. Linda Evans was in a coma, and John Forsythe was shot. When the show was abruptly canceled, angry fans demanded to know what happened to their characters.
I thought it was very unfair to end the series with fans, everybody up in the air.
It would be nice to end it with some definitive thing, to know what happened to the people, and to do it with some kind of dignity.
The 9th season of Dynasty ended up being the last. They didn't know that. So there were still a lot of loose threads when the show ended that eventually would be resolved when they did a reunion miniseries later on.
Yes, it's true. The family you love to watch stab each other in the back is back. They felt they owed it to the fans who had watched Dynasty throughout the years.
It all eventually got resolved in the reunion special, which wrapped it up in a nice bow around a package.
Hi, Dad.
Hello, son.
Alexis? Oh, my God.
Isn't it interesting that Dynasty stayed on top for almost exactly the length of the Reagan administration? It started in 1981 with the inauguration month, and it ended in 1989. The 90s were about to dawn.
I, George Herbert Walker Bush, do solemnly swear.
Maybe we shouldn't be about greed, and we shouldn't be about eating cake for dinner.
I look back on it now, it was a kind of a cultural thing. It was a kind of product of the time. It was a good show for what it was. Richard and Esther Shapiro made an attempt to break some ground, and I think they did. So I'm really proud of that part of it.
It was so intense. Those 9 years were so amazing. I wouldn't have given them up for anything in the world. It was an extraordinary thing to experience. Dynasty has become somewhat iconic, and I think I'd quite like to be remembered for having given a lot of people a lot of pleasure and laughs.
It did not take anything that seriously, and I think that's why people watch television then and now, is to escape. Total escapism, and also the American dream. Come to America and you can be a billionaire?
The legacy of Dynasty, for me, obviously, is the fashion. I wish Nolan could be here today because he would be so proud. Having dressed Elizabeth Taylor, Sophia Loren, Joan Collins is why over time, Julia Roberts, Angelina Jolie, Beyonce, everybody would come to me because I was there. And I owe that to Nolan. I owe that to Dynasty. I owe it to Aaron Spelling, Joan Collins. I owe it to everybody.
When you think about history, there are lots of dynasties. That's where the name comes from. Like, look at the Kardashians. They basically are another version of the Carringtons. Super successful, super well-known, rich, and don't really care what anybody thinks about them.
Being surrounded by like opulence and a dirty martini in a crystal glass and fabulous everywhere.
That is definitely left over from Dynasty.
Dynasty made it okay to flaunt your wealth. Made the people who weren't wealthy think that's what wealthy people do and should do.
I will literally you up.
The idea of, kind of the cat fight, the claws out.
I asked you something. Well, here's your answer.
I've worked with all the Kardashians. They love Dynasty. Kris Jenner lived for Dynasty. So you can see that when you look at them dressing today to what was happening on Dynasty, it's pretty parallel.
Succession probably owes a little tip of the hat to the rich, miserable people.
Money wins.
Every decade has had its
TV shows about how messed up rich people are. And people love that. They love that. Because let's face it, there's only this many rich people and everybody else is in this group.
I think Dynasty's greatest legacy is when you think the 80s, you think Dynasty. This was a show that was pure Reaganomics. It was pure greed. It was pure go, greed is good, early 80s nonsense that definitely doesn't hold up today, but it's a fun snapshot of an era that's now long past.